DUBBIA full text of 4 Cardinals letter to Pope Francis with explanatory notes and 5 questions. First part. 4 Cardinals have released an historic September 19, 2016 letter to Pope Francis in which they pleaded with him for clarity regarding his Apostolic Exhortation Amoris Laetitia. The letter asked the Pope 5 short questions which call for yes or no answers which would immediately clarify the meaning of the confusion-plagued document. Following is the full text of the letter and accompanying explanatory notes and the 5 questions. Seeking clarity, a plea to untie the knots in Amoris Laetitia. 1. A necessary foreword. 2. The letter of the 4 Cardinals to the Pope. 3. The DUBBIA. 4. Explanatory note of the 4 Cardinals. Context. The questions. Doubt number 1. Doubt number 2. Doubt number 3. Doubt number 4. Doubt number 5. 1. A necessary foreword. The sending of the letter to His Holiness Pope Francis by 4 Cardinals has its origin in a deep pastoral concern. We have noted a grave disorientation and great confusion of many faithful regarding extremely important matters for the life of the Church. We have noted that even within the Episcopal College there are contrasting interpretations of Chapter 8 of Amoris Laetitia. The great tradition of the Church teaches us that the way out of situations like this is recourse to the Holy Father, asking the Apostolic See to resolve those doubts which are the cause of disorientation and confusion. Ours is therefore an act of justice and charity. Of justice, with our initiative we profess that the Petrine ministry is the ministry of unity, and that to Peter, to the Pope, belongs the service of confirming in the faith. Of charity, we want to help the Pope to prevent divisions and conflicts in the Church, asking him to dispel all ambiguity. We have also carried out a specific duty. According to the Code of Canon Law, CC 349, the Cardinals, even taken individually, are entrusted with the task of helping the Pope to care for the universal Church. The Holy Father has decided not to respond. We have interpreted his sovereign decision as an invitation to continue the reflection and the discussion, calmly and with respect. And so we are informing the entire people of God about our initiative, offering all of the documentation. We hope that no one will choose to interpret the matter according to a progressive conservative paradigm. That would be completely off the mark. We are deeply concerned about the true good of souls, the supreme law of the Church, and not about promoting any form of politics in the Church. We hope that no one will judge us, unjustly, as adversaries of the Holy Father and people devoid of mercy. What we have done and are doing has its origin in the deep collegial affection that unites us to the Pope, and from an impassioned concern for the good of the faithful. Card. Walter Brandmüller. Card. Raymond L. Burke. Card. Carlo Caffarra. Card. Joachim Meisner. 2. The letter of the 4 Cardinals to the Pope to His Holiness Pope Francis, and for the attention of His Eminence Cardinal Gerhard L. Müller. Most Holy Father, following the publication of your Apostolic Exhortation Amoris Laetitia, theologians and scholars have proposed interpretations that are not only divergent, but also conflicting, above all in regard to Chapter VII. Moreover, the media have emphasized this dispute, thereby provoking uncertainty, confusion, and disorientation among many of the faithful. Because of this, we the undersigned, but also many bishops and priests, have received numerous requests from the faithful of various social strata on the correct interpretation to give to chapter VII of the exhortation. Now, compelled in conscience by our pastoral responsibility and desiring to implement evermore that synodality to which your holiness urges us, we, with profound respect, permit ourselves to ask you, Holy Father, as supreme teacher of the faith, called by the risen one to confirm his brothers in the faith, to resolve the uncertainties and bring clarity, benevolently giving a response to the DUBBIA that we attach to the present letter. May your holiness wish to bless us, as we promise constantly to remember you in prayer. Card. Walter Brandmüller. Card. Raymond L. Burke. Card. Carlo Caffarra. Card. Joachim Meisner. Rome, September 19, 2016. 3. The DUBBIA. 1. It is asked whether, following the affirmations of Amoris Laetitia, N 300-305, it has now become possible to grant absolution in the sacrament of penance and thus to admit to Holy Communion a person who, while bound by a valid marital bond, lives together with a different person more uxorio, in a marital way, without fulfilling the conditions provided for by Familiaris Consortio N84 and subsequently reaffirmed by Reconciliatio et Penitentia N34 and Sacramentum Caritas N29. Can the expression in certain cases found in Note 351, N305, of the Exhortation Amoris Laetitia be applied to divorced persons who are in a new union and who continue to live more uxorio? 2. After the publication of the post-synodal Apostolic Exhortation Amoris Laetitia, CFN 304, does one still need to regard as valid the teaching of St. John Paul II's encyclical Veritas Splendor N79, based on sacred scripture and on the tradition of the Church, on the existence of absolute moral norms that prohibit intrinsically evil acts and that are binding without exceptions? 3. After Amoris Laetitia, N 301, is it still possible to affirm that a person who habitually lives in contradiction to a commandment of God's law, as for instance the one that prohibits adultery, cf. MT 19, 3-9, finds him or herself in an objective situation of grave habitual sin, cf. Pontifical Council for Legislative Texts, Declaration, June 24, 2004. After the affirmations of Amoris Laetitia, N 302, on circumstances which mitigate moral responsibility, does one still need to regard as valid the teaching of St. John Paul II's encyclical Veritas Splendor N81? Based on sacred scripture and on the tradition of the Church, according to which circumstances or intentions can never transform an act intrinsically evil by virtue of its object into an act subjectively good or defensible as a choice? 5. After Amoris Laetitia, N 303, does one still need to regard as valid the teaching of St. John Paul II's encyclical Veritas Splendor N56, based on sacred scripture and on the tradition of the Church, that excludes a creative interpretation of the role of conscience and that emphasizes that conscience can never be authorized to legitimate exceptions to absolute moral norms that prohibit intrinsically evil acts by virtue of their object? 4. Explanatory note of the Four Cardinals context. DUBBIA. From the Latin, doubts, are formal questions brought before the Pope and to the congregation for the doctrine of the faith, asking for clarifications on particular issues concerning doctrine or practice. What is peculiar about these inquiries is that they are worded in a way that requires a yes or no answer, without theological argumentation. This way of addressing the Apostolic See is not an invention of our own, it is an age-old practice. Let's get to what is concretely at stake. Upon the publication of the post-synodal Apostolic Exhortation Amoris Laetitia on love in the family, a debate has arisen, particularly around its 8th chapter. Here, specifically paragraphs 300-305, have been the object of divergent interpretations. For many, bishops, priests, faithful, these paragraphs allude to or even explicitly teach a change in the discipline of the Church with respect to the divorced who are living in a new union, while others, admitting the lack of clarity or even the ambiguity of the passages in question, nonetheless argue that these same pages can be read in continuity with the previous magisterium and do not contain a modification in the Church's practice and teaching. Motivated by a pastoral concern for the faithful, 4 cardinals have sent a letter to the Holy Father under the form of DUBBIA, hoping to receive clarity, given that doubt and uncertainty are always highly detrimental to pastoral care. The fact that interpreters come to different conclusions is also due to divergent ways of understanding the Christian moral life. In this sense, what is at stake in Amoris Laetitia is not only the question of whether or not the divorced who have entered into a new union can, under certain circumstances, be readmitted to the sacraments. Rather, the interpretation of the document also implies different, contrasting approaches to the Christian way of life. Thus, while the first question of the DUBBIA concerns a practical question regarding the divorced and civilly remarried, the other 4 questions touch on fundamental issues of the Christian life.